Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnos, and welcome to the second boss of the raid. This is it's going to be called the Shadow Flame the Amalgamation Chamber or something. Um, and basically, you have these two different bosses that you start with. You have this fire boss and this shadow boss, and both bosses will be applying different stacking debuffs to players that are within 40 yards of them. So you can see the ranged players that are in the middle of the room are actually getting stacks from both, but it's not too lethal. They're just doing that so that they can cleave, and it's worthwhile. And the fire one is just a dot. The shadow one actually is a dot and a max HP reduction, so that's kind of nasty as well. And then both of the mini bosses have little mechanics that they do as well. So the fire one has several soak mechanics. There was that meteor, which does split damage and needs to be soaked or else it wipes the raid. And then there's a bunch of like smaller little meteors, these molten eruptions, that also all need to be soaked or else they do some raid damage. It's not a wipe if one goes unsoaked, but it's a lot of damage. And then other than that, it does these fire tornadoes aimed at a random player. On the shadow side, you have this fall off damage orb here. So you want to make sure you're not super close to that. And then there's also a mechanic that you're going to see over just in the top left where people get these circles they need to spread away from. And then orbs also approach the shadow boss, and you need to make sure that you don't touch those. Once either boss reaches 50% health, they will shield up and start shrinking and also do a bunch of swirlies. And then they will form into Mol'goth, a shadow flame boss. Ooh, the shadow boss, the flame boss, turn into the shadow flame boss. And this boss now, instead of applying these duration stacks of a debuff, we'll start applying unlimited full duration, unlimited stacks of a shadow flame debuff that is a nastier dot that also does have that max HP damage reduction. And basically it has now mechanics that are from both shadow and flame. So that was a meteor that needed to be soaked, and it did split damage to everybody that was within it. And if nobody soaked it, it would be very bad. And then it turned into a fall off damage explosion that we needed to move away from. These are soaks that need to get soaked like the fire things. And then as soon as they happen, they form these stars of 5 orbs that run in towards where the soak was, and you need to not get hit by those orbs. And then other than that, you can see everybody here starting to gain stacks. You can immune these stacks from either boss. You can do immunes. And you can see you can chase down somebody else there with their debuff, just both get an extra stack and take a little bit of extra damage. Those circles, you just want to spread them, not have them in melee because they shoot out shadow flame tornadoes in 4 directions. And then again, you soak the meteor, you run away from that fall off damage orb afterwards. And otherwise you were just kind of tanking the boss and not really doing too much else with it. It's got this tank frontal thing, that shadow flame burst that you want to only hit one player, ideally, but it's not causing too much danger to either me or my co-tank really here. And then there's, Blistering Twilight. Again, this is 4 people targeted. They go and spread, and then they will spawn 4 fire tornadoes at, it looks like, cardinal directions from where they're looking. It'll be 1 in front, and 1 to the left and right, and 1 behind. So that might be something where we make sure that we don't look at the raid or something, so that it doesn't hit them, or it's probably just not something you really worry about too much. And other than that, you just kill the boss. Now, a few things about this fight that we learned from testing. First of all, if you pull the 2 bosses together at the start, then you will perish rather rapidly, because when they are stacked, they actually pulse extra stacks to everybody in the raid every 3 seconds. So you can see that when we do this, the HPS requirement is very high. It's very, very high danger. People are starting to die. We did test this a few more times, actually, where we just tried to pull them all together. You can see, even though we were doing some ridiculous HPS numbers here, it's just not feasible. So that's why you can't stack the 2 bosses together. Now, you can focus one boss of the 2. This is sort of like the last boss of Ruby Life Pools, where when you kill one of them, or when you push one to 50%, they will both merge and combine their HP. And so if you do that, what we did on this pull was we just didn't touch the shadow one pretty much at all, except for Vors, who is padding over there in the middle with Power Infusion and Havoc, and is padding on the other one. But everybody else was being good and was just hitting the fire boss. And we were testing this, but it basically proved the point, was if you push the fire one to 50%, they will still both merge. And then instead of Mol'goth, the combined one, being at 50% when it spawns, it'll be at 75%. And you'll have a much longer last phase. The last phase does have that pseudo enrage of you're getting more and more stacks of this no duration debuff, right? So you want to in theory, if this is a hard fight on Mythic, you're going to want to save Lust and all cooldowns for P2 when that, no duration debuff starts getting applied to players, because that is the soften rage of the encounter, and you could spend as much time as you needed to in P1 without there being too much danger. So that is Mol'goth. Hope you've enjoyed this little look at this upcoming fight. If you're interested in logs, I will put a link in the description below as well. Again, another beautiful looking fight. So I'm quite liking the aesthetic of this raid so far. It is one of the, like, you can go to this boss second if you want, or you could go to other bosses instead if you wanted. But so it's a very early boss. Not surprising that it's fairly still on the simple side, but and we don't know what the mythic mechanics are yet. Actually, I didn't see if there were any. I didn't see any in the dungeon journal. So if there are ones, they're not in there yet. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.